Magic Knight Rayearth, a classic magical girl story whose manga first released in 1993 by the absolutely fantastic team called Clamp. If you don't know Clamp by name, you definitely at least know the phenomenal stories they've told over the years. Classics like Cardcaptor Sakura, X-Holic, Tsubasa Chronicles, Chobits, Kobato, and many, many more. I highly recommend any of the ones I've listed off, but today we're specifically focusing on one of their earliest stories, Rayearth. I first read the manga. After all, when you walk into a Barnes & Noble and see this epic cover sticking out of the shelf, you kinda have to pick it up, right? Clamp has always had a bright, bold, eye-catching style across all of their works. And maybe I'm just easy to please, but a girl in a cute outfit surrounded by magical creatures and a sword in her hand is enough to totally sell me on a story. So today, I wanted to just encapsulate everything about Rayearth, but before we get into specifics about certain things, I figure you all should probably get caught up on the story. So let's dive right in. Our story begins with three very different girls from three different schools, all visiting Tokyo Tower at the same time. Umi is proper and comes from a rich school, Hikaru is childish and energetic, and Fu does this.
If you please, allow me. I have very much enjoyed watching you have such a good time on your field trip today.
Yes, little girl. I was just having so much fun watching you from a distance without you knowing about it. Tee-hee-hee-hee. Tee-hee-hee-hee-hee. In all honesty though, Fu is level-headed and very empathetic towards others. Suddenly, the three girls hear a voice calling out to them, and then it's off to the digital world. Our heroines bump into the mage, Clef, and he explains to them that they've been called here by Princess Emerald, who's basically like the god of this world. She's been trapped away by the evil sorcerer Zagato. Our three heroines are the fated magic knights who are destined to help save their world, Saphiro. Evil people in an evil council chamber, yeah! It's such a simple thing, but I really love it when there's a collection of baddies that's shown to us at the start of a story, and our heroes have to fight them all off one by one over the course of the adventure.
Are there three of them, just like in the leg?
Applejack? Applejack, is that you? You're a long way from Ponyville, hun. First up to fight the girls is the sorceress Alcyone. After getting a big ol' lore dump about Saphiro and the magic knights from Clef, she attacks. And oh my god, I didn't realize before, I didn't get a good look at your outfit, but like, come on, babe, cover yourself up a little bit. Anyways, G-String over here goes and attacks the girls, and Clef gets turned into a statue by Zagato. But Hikaru figures out how to cast a spell and blasts the pantsless wonder away.
Are you okay? That must be the magic Mr. Clef was talking about.
Now that their anime boy Yoda is gone, the girls only have a vague sense of which way to go from here, and they enter the Forest of Silence. Our girls run into Presea, a blacksmith who will help build them special weapons, but more importantly, we meet Makona. Makona is their mascot character for Rayearth and helps to lead the girls in the right direction on their quest. Now, even if you've never read or watched Magic Knight Rayearth, you might recognize Makona. That's because something Clamp loves doing is having their characters from different stories popping into the other stories that they do. Characters from Clover show up in Kobato. Tsubasa Chronicles is basically just reusing all the same characters from Cardcaptor Sakura, and Makona here tends to pop up the most, probably because this is like peak cute mascot character design right here. So simple, so adorable.
There you will gather a precious ore called Escudo. I will use this ore to create your weapons.
As they continue on their quest, they run into Fario, the rogue mercenary dude who just kind of hangs around, I guess. It is funny that there's this plot point that Umi and Hikaru are like totally ready to trust this guy, and then Fu is the only one who's like, guys, please, stranger danger, okay?
You don't have to stay for a long time. It'd be great just to have some company for a change.
We fight some more monsters, and the other girls get their own magical spells. Fu gets lucky and learns both a real attack and a healing spell at the same time. After failing 3 times in a row now, Zagato benches G-String and decides to send out his next best minion, Ascot, the little boy child.
Okay then, I wonder what kind of game would be fun to play with those girls.
Ascot is a beast tamer, so we get several cool episodes where the girls are just fighting off really big, awesomely designed monsters. The girls finally get their hands on their magic ore that they use to build their swords with, Escudo, and they bring it back to Presea so she can make their weapons. Special weapons that will evolve with their wielders' own strength. And of course, the only way a blacksmith can make such a weapon is by putting on a flowy silk dress and doing whatever this is. Hammers and fire. Bah, don't be ridiculous. This is how sword crafting works. In all honesty, Clamp would always just come up with any reason to get their characters in various beautiful outfits. There was like 20 whole extra pages at the end of Chobits, which was just putting the twins in different cute outfits. I love it. I love their love of outfits. One thing that I was always kind of bummed out about with their weapons is the fact that they all just get swords. In the beginning, Hikaru and Umi at least had different kinds of swords. Hikaru has a standard sword while Umi has a rapier, and Fu didn't even use a blade. She just had bow and arrows. But after they get their Escudo weapons, their weapons all look the same, which is kind of boring to me. I don't know, I just prefer a bit more variety in their combat. Like, yeah, technically, Umi does still have a rapier, now Fu has a broadsword, but they swing their swords the same way as each other, so it doesn't really change anything. Unfortunately, Presea ends up dying after making their swords.
Promise that we will never forget that you gave your life to create these swords.
I'm sorry, Presea, we couldn't save you, but your death won't be in vain.
The loss of Master Smith Presea.
Vario in desperation, a romance in the desert.
I'm not exaggerating, the tonal whiplash was bananas. Anyways, now that the girls each have magical swords that evolve with them, they all get cool episodes dedicated to each one of them unlocking more skills and powers. Something I thought was especially cool is the fact that the girls all fight different monsters from Ascot, and each monster has an ability that lines up with their elemental powers. Like, Fu fights a monster with a wind attack, Hikaru fights a fire-breathing monster. Umi technically fought G-String, who came back and had a focus on ice attacks. G-String actually tricked Ascot into letting her try to kill the Magic Knights again, but she betrayed him, which sent Ascot down the path of redemption, actually.
It's your own fault for making your friends attack other people. Don't you care if they end up getting hurt when they do things like that?
Yes, of course I care about them.
If you don't love and respect them, how can they love and respect you back?
We also run into Applejack again, who uses charming spells to control people. Turns out she's not actually much of an evil minion, it's more that she just wants a lot of money, and being teamed up with Zagato helps her get the most cash.
What do you want?
Money. What else?
The Magic Knights end up talking to Applejack and Ascot, and they decide to leave Zagato's forces. Clamp's stories usually have a lot of villains who turn out to be good people and get redemption arcs, which I appreciate. I think it's a fun twist. All the while, the team were getting stronger and stronger, unlocking more and more spells, leveling up their swords and armor, which, similar to their swords all being basically the same, I also wish their armor could have had more variety to it too. Also, Makona reveals that they could have been flying this whole time.
Kona, if you can do this kind of stuff, why didn't you do it from the beginning? Please hurry, legendary Magic Knights. Please hurry before it's too late.
Now that Alcyone is actually done for, and Applejack and Ascot has left, Zagato is down to his last two minions. Lafarga, the captain of the guard, who is actually under a spell and ends up befriending the girls right away. And Innova, who's actually an anime-only character. He has shape-shifting spells and disguises himself as a woman to try to get closer to the Magic Knights.
My name is Sarah. I live in town at the foot of these mountains. My brother developed a high fever.
What a stellar performance. Now that they all have more skills, it's time for them to unlock the final important element of being a Magic Knight, their rune gods. Turns out, Magic Knight Rayearth's real claim to fame is the fact that it's one of the few, if not the only, magical girl anime that is also considered a mech anime.
Is that a robot?
They get their rune gods only at the very end of the adventure though, only actually getting to pilot them for the first time at the end of the third to last episode. But now that they've gotten fully powered up and Zagato has no more minions to fight for him, it's time for the final battle.
Zagato, I'm begging you to stop.
The knights fight with Zagato, who has his own rune god. Yeah, giant mech battles, yay!
Isn't it true that this entire world will be
Why should Emerald alone be forced to be the pillar of Saphiro?
Exodia! Obliterate!
So yeah, they totally kill that guy, and Emerald isn't actually too thrilled by this. Turns out, Zagato and Emerald actually loved each other, and Zagato wasn't keeping her locked away because he wanted Saphiro to collapse, it's because he didn't think it was fair that she had to give up her whole life to be the pillar of Saphiro. See, what she has to do is she has to just spend all day, every day, just praying for Saphiro's safety, meaning she didn't get to do anything, she didn't get to have any time for him, and he didn't think that was fair. And so the reason Saphiro has been collapsing this whole time was because since she's in love with Zagato and was hanging out with him, she wasn't praying for Saphiro's protection anymore. So Emerald transforms into her final form to kill the Magic Knights as revenge for killing Zagato, and becomes the secret, actual final boss. This plot twist blew me away the first time I read the manga. It would be like discovering Zelda was actually the real evil final boss at the end of the game. And that she was also dating Ganondorf. That would just be crazy shit. Her final wish is for the Magic Knights to kill her before she completely prays for Saphiro's destruction in her vengeful rage. And also, this way she can be reunited with Zagato in death. And in order to do so, the Magic Knights rune gods fuse into a Megazord, and it's really badass. Yeah, it only did one move ever throughout the entire first season, but it was cool. It was really cool. Once it's done, the three girls are instantly whisked back to Tokyo Tower, just like where they left it, and this final shot of the three girls hugging is probably one of the most iconic images from the whole story. It's an intense and emotional finale for their adventure, at least for the first half of their adventure. There is a second season to Ray Earth, but for now, I'm gonna end the story here. The second season would deserve a video all for itself, and I wanted to discuss other elements about Magic Knight Ray Earth outside of just its story. The animations definitely got a very specific charm to it. Personally, I adore this classic style for anime. Their eyes are absolutely massive, and there's like 12 different shine spots inside of them, and I think it's just so cute and it looks so pretty. I want to make one thing very clear. Ray Earth does not have bad animation, not by a long shot. Some environments they go to are a bit simple, but there's also very beautiful and imaginative elements to this fantasy world. Hell, some of the moments we have here are just fucking stunning. The characters are all easily recognizable, very cute, very charming. I really appreciate how each character has a distinct color palette. I love how Zagato and all his minions, and also Clef, have these layers and layers of armor and capes and things like that, and the girls slowly across their adventure get their own set of armor and stuff. And then at the very end, they look like they are a part of this world. It's a really cool touch. The combat and the spells are fun, if a bit limited, but that was kind of like a common thing back in the 90s with anime. They would just reuse the same shots for their magic and attacks over and over again. During the battles with the various monsters, usually the most interesting thing would actually be whatever the monster was doing. There are some weird shots here or there, like Fu's hand here looks like I drew it, and I can't draw hands. But this moment was probably my favorite.
Hey! So we meet again.
Mario!
Looking good girls, good faces, good choice, good animation loop. There's one episode 17, where for some reason all of their faces look so off the whole time. I don't know why. It's like the third to last episode too. It's just so weirdly low quality feeling. I would say my biggest gripe about the animation is the fact that they really overly rely on this chibi style.
Umi!
Very often, the girls will be this cute little chibi versions of themselves, and I think it definitely works with their lighthearted comedic moments, but there are times where they'll be in the middle of a battle, and then they'll suddenly become little chibis, and it just pulls me right out of it. It takes away all of the tension and the stakes of the show, the moment they look like cute little potatoes running around. But I also totally understand why they utilize this technique so much. The girls' designs are so complex. There's so many intricate little details in everyone's outfits. There's all these different frills from their different uniforms. Their armor has so many little bits and bops everywhere. Clamp outfits always feature huge amounts of beautifully intricate, small details, and unfortunately, every time it gets adapted into animation, those details tend to suffer. Animating a bunch of small details is very hard, and things have changed nowadays, where we can have these animated shows like Castlevania, which feature incredibly intricate clothes and details with its animation. We also have the rise of 3D animation, where characters can have all these crazy little details you want because it's all just a part of their one model. Unfortunately, with the limitations of what 90s anime was capable of, Magic Knights just doesn't get that option. But they do the best with what they've got. I will say, I would always recommend the manga over the anime, especially if you want to see all of the beauty Rayearth really has to offer. Comparing shots from the show to its original manga panels feels very unfair. These panels are gorgeous, Clamp's work is always beautiful, but like I said, the anime is still beautiful, just in its own way. However, there is another place you can go if you want to watch a version of Rayearth that has a bit better animation quality. So this blew my mind. Yeah, there was like a 3-part OVA for Rayearth, opting not to mimic Clamp's iconic original style to go with their own thing here, which I am also a fan of. The crazy thing is, it's almost nothing like the original story. The 3 girls all attend the same school together and are all already friends before the journey even starts. Clef doesn't die, most of the characters don't even appear. The ones that do are completely different, and like, it takes place in Tokyo, rather than having the girls going to Sapphiroh, they're all showing up in the real world. And quite frankly, I think it would be more fun to take a full look at this for its own separate video, so maybe we'll come back to this OVA sometime in the future. They very often allude to their story being like a video game in the story itself.
To have a map displayed like this, it really feels like we're in a video game.
It's in the manga too, and I get it. It's an easy way to explain the mechanics of what's going on in this world. Leveling up different spells, upgrading weapons and armor, etc, etc. It's a no-brainer that they turned this into a video game. It's practically begging to be one to begin with. First up, we got this game for the Sega Saturn, which has some really dope box art. This was the only one to ever make it to the US, only fan translations exist of the others that I'll talk about.
One thing's for certain, this isn't Tokyo.
Wow, I really wasn't expecting voice acting, like, at all. In this game, they call Princess Emerald Princess Emerald instead. They also call Zagato Zagat. Ugh.
Her intent must be to revive the ancient machines.
Aw, they took away Applejack's accent.
We must have a plan to counter Emerald's activities, Zagat.
That can't be Ascot. No! Why would you do that to Ascot? Who made this decision for his voice?
You can't be the legendary Magic Knights. You're just bumbling children.
Wow, okay, fuck you too, Clef. In the original anime, Clef was like the only person who didn't judge the girls like this. The actual gameplay looks very charming. It's bright and colorful and cute, and quite frankly, the anime pop-ins for their faces feel very cheap and flatly colored by comparison. There was also a game on the SNES, which was more of a typical turn-based RPG. While the overworld isn't nearly as detailed or has nearly as much color variation, their character portraits have a lot more detail to them, which is nice, and makes it feel like they're more like a part of this world here. There was one made for the Game Gear, and I can't find any footage with an English translation, so I have no idea what's going on. It sure looks cute, and it's a lot happening, I can tell you that. I think Wikipedia was referring to this game as a raising simulator, but I don't know. I guess that's what's happening here. There's a game on the Sega Pico, which was a console I had never even heard of before now. And with this one, without a doubt, it has the worst sound design for it. Some shots look really great. It seems like they copied them right out of the anime itself. Like, it actually gives us transformation sequences for the girls and everything. But the actual gameplay can dive into, like, real yikes territory. I think the whole thing is actually just a collection of weird minigames, which is a fascinating choice to me. Let's take the RPG out of the RPG-inspired anime. There was 2 different games on the Game Boy, and they're about exactly what you'd expect. Since I have nothing all that interesting to say about these Game Boy games, I'll take this opportunity to point out something I've realized while I was getting the footage from all these different games. They're all really story-heavy. There's a lot of stopping and talking in these games, which I guess makes sense. The girls' interactions with each other and the various people that they meet along the way is kind of a big deal for the story. It just makes me want to see a Rayearth game that's done in the same style as, like, the Tales of franchise, you know? Anyway, there was one more game that I wanted to talk about. It was on the Game Gear, and I'll be honest, I couldn't give a crap about the actual gameplay, because I was just too won over with the commercial they use for it. Hell yes! The closer we are to becoming like Ice Fantasy, the more I love it. Quite frankly, I think Magic Knight Rayearth could 100% get some newfound love and attention. I would love to see it get remade, similar to something like Trigun Stampede. These older anime are hard for people to get into nowadays. The quality of the animation can be off-putting for some folks, but if you wanted to read the manga, which had higher quality artwork, you'd be dropping quite a bit of money to get your hands on it. And if you don't know what to look for, it might be impossible to even have something like this recommended to you in the first place. Anime was really hard to watch when Rayearth was first coming out, so Rayearth went under a lot of people's radars and they never even got the chance to even watch this at all. Nowadays, you can watch the whole thing on Amazon Prime, and I also think it's all on YouTube, which I found out after I got all my footage, which was a little annoying. But I think Rayearth could really be a big hit if it got some sort of remaster or reboot. Jazz up the magic and the swordplay with big, bombastic animation. Make figures, miniatures, dolls out of these girls, the Rune Gods, and Makona. Makona's practically begging to be made into a Squishmallow. Look at him! Make new video games for Rayearth. I think this franchise has so much untapped potential, and I would just love to see it. That's the real conclusion here. The entire point of this video was to just get people to talk about Rayearth because I want more. Regardless of all of that, I'm glad I got to enjoy the beauty of Magic Knight Rayearth at all. I highly recommend you check it out, especially if you're in the mood for some good old-fashioned fantasy fun. And maybe I'll be back to talk about Season 2 in the future. Shout out to my $10 patrons, you're all amazing. Nako, Cool Duck, Andrew, Ramiel, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, G-Extreme, Classic Critic, Noah Perkins, Sunny Shy, Great Bar, Jake, Amber, Hype Man, Zero to Hero, Isaiah, Scaring Crows, Not All That Evil, Messiah Complex, Jacob, Virus, Ben's Sketchbook, Omega Fighter, Trash, Wild Pilot, Josh, Swift Cannon, and The Infinity Effect. Did you like this video? Did you like this whole encapsulation about Rayearth in this video? I hope you enjoyed it. If you've seen Rayearth before, what do you think? What do you think about the anime? If you haven't seen it, are you more interested in it now? Would you be interested in a reboot or a remaster? Leave suggestions as to which studio you would like to see doing a remaster. I'm gonna stick with Studio Orange because I really liked Trigun Stampede, and I think they could really crush Rayearth. Any and all thoughts and opinions about Magic Knight Rayearth, the manga, the anime, any of the video games, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.